Another audience question. Sir, give us your name, where you're from.
Hi, Congressman. Frank Camaro from Londonderry, New Hampshire. Being every state in the United States has authorized at least one veterans hospital, and here in New Hampshire we have one. Are you for keeping it open in the emergency room 24 hours, 7 days a week? Right now we have a plan that's probably going to cut the funding April 1st with emergency room. Will close down after 6.
Well, this would sort of be a follow-up on the previous question we had about veterans. Now, I think we should do whatever we can to help veterans, which means that we shouldn't be cutting back, we should be expanding it. Just as I look at air bases and military bases, we close those down in this country, and we build air bases overseas and military bases overseas, a large number. We have over 735 military bases overseas. We close the bases down here. I think what we should be doing is saving that money, bringing our troops home. We have troops in Korea, and we have Japan and Europe for 60 years. We could save not 10 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars. And then we would have enough money where we could afford keeping the hospitals open and having 2 or 3 hospitals wherever we only have one. So they always say it comes up short. They're short money to take care of the veterans, but they're never short money to go and talk about taking on Iran, you know, another war, spread the war. Nobody asks questions about that. But they do neglect the people who paid the price and went over. So I think, I don't know, I'd have to admit I don't know the exact details, but philosophically I would say where there's one hospital, we probably need 2, and they need to be open a maximum amount of time.
Frank, thank you very much. Another question from the audience. Ma'am, please tell us your name, where you're from.
Hi, Michelle Talbot from Litchfield, New Hampshire. And I'm wondering if you could share your views on our Social Security system and the challenges that affect or face its future.
The Social Security system is in bad shape. If you ask young people, and maybe even this audience would tell us that we don't expect that the Social Security system will be in very good shape, you know, in 10, 20, 30 years. The numbers aren't there. And if you add on Medicare and Medicaid, none of that. Prescription drug program. The financing isn't there. We have now, nobody knows the exact number, but if you take future obligations, Social Security and others, it's between 50 and 60 trillion dollars. They talk about a national debt going up last year. If they don't ever count what they borrow from Social Security, so they tell us that the national debt increase last year was $280 billion. If you count, which they should, what they took out of Social Security, it would be like $400 billion. But if you count the additional obligations that we assumed last year, it was $4.6 trillion. So it's impossible to be able to maintain this. I'm probably one of the very few in Congress who voted for so little spending in Washington that I never voted once to spend 1 penny out of Social Security. But that's not going to change. I mean, politicians spend money to get reelected, so they're going to continue to do that. And you have to have welfare here, you have to have warfare here, so and that's too often bipartisan, so they keep spending. I think what we should do, of course, is quit spending and protect the trust fund and do our very best to honor our commitment. But the number of young people going into the workforce are smaller, and there's not enough to take care of those in retirement. And we could, and I expect we will in time, have a recession. The income is going to go way down. Young people, we should start with a transition program, and I think young people ought to be able to opt out of it. Give them a chance to take care of themselves. And then the only way we could meet our commitment to the elderly who have become dependent, whether the medical care or Social Security, the only way that can happen is we'd have to change our foreign policy. We'd have to think, we are not the policemen of the world. We can't nation build forever. We're going broke. Our military budget is $700 billion a year. And you know where the money comes from? China. The Chinese have loaned us over $1 trillion. They hold our treasury bills. So China could bring us to our knees instantly if they decided for some reason. So we have to really reassess our future. Although on the surface we're all doing well, but believe me, we're doing well, and not everybody's doing well. We're doing well because we borrow so much from foreigners.
Thank you very much for the question. Do you expect to win New Hampshire?
This is my first trip here, and I am known for not overstating my position, but let me tell you, in my short visit here, and with communications by email and other things, I am very optimistic, and it's growing.
Welcome to our online viewers as the conversation continues with Republican presidential candidate, Texas Congressman Ron Paul. Over the next half hour, we'll be taking more questions from our audience, as well as questions sent in by you. We're going to start with another question for the Congressman from our audience. Please stand up, tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Teresa Novak-Chabot, and I live in Bedford. And I have a twofold question for you, Congressman. I want to know how you're going to address the level of poverty in this country, and also I'm wondering what you're going to be doing to promote affordable health care for those who are self-employed.
The level of poverty in this country is growing, and most people who recognize this say that what we need to do is forcibly redistribute the wealth. There's too many rich people. We need to take some from them through taxation and pass this back to those who need some help. But poverty is a consequence of big government. Poverty doesn't happen accidentally. And one of the most important reasons why we have poverty in this country and the wealth gets badly distributed is through a monetary system. We mentioned a little while ago about the amount of money we spend that we don't have, and we borrow so much. I mentioned we borrow from foreigners as well. But there's a lot we can't tax and we can't borrow, so we print it. And printing money is not a good idea, and we've been doing that for a long time, especially since 1971, since the Bretton Woods gold standard broke down. And this means that when you print money, the value of the money goes down. But when we print new money, the people who get it first become the richest, because when it gets to the poor people, it doesn't have as much value. So the money goes to the banks and to Wall Street. So last year there was a firm on Wall Street that gave away, or had in bonuses, $16.5 billion in bonuses. At the same time, the real value of the minimum wage, which was $9.50 in 1971 before the Bretton Woods broke down, is now worth $5.15. So you cannot address the subject of poverty without addressing the subject of money and why it makes some people richer and other people poorer. When inflation gets out of hand, you wipe out the middle class, and we do know about certain histories, whether it's Mexico or Germany, other places. We have that today, and it's insidious. When you have a downturn, who loses a job first? The marginal worker, and he becomes poorer. So the problem is we don't have a free market. What we have is a government involved in wanting to take care of poor people by deficit financing and then printing up the money, and it hurts the very people that they're trying to help. In some ways, the medical care is the same way. And you can improve the tax laws where the people who are having a difficult time getting medical care, where they could get deductions and where you could get tax credits and other things like this. But you know, when I first started practicing medicine in the early 1960s, I worked in an emergency room in San Antonio, Texas. I was in the military at the time. But I was doing the moonlighting, and I worked 12 hours, and I made $3 an hour. And it wasn't much, but even then $3 bought a lot more than it bought today. But one thing I remember clearly about this, it was run by the church, there was no government program, and nobody was turned away. Today, you come in to a hospital, you can't get out of there with less than $10,000 into emergency room. You can't get out of there probably without a $10,000 bill. And everybody has third-party payments, and everybody gets billed the maximum. So it's a real mess, and the quality of care is going down.